Sorry.
No. You can finish. No,
Yeah, I think like a lot of us who um, see perceived things as losses. Like for me, I always felt that people who were blind were almost amazing, superhuman because they have a lot of gifts. Even with loss of one sight, you've gained so much. And people who are deaf are also like superhuman. And so it's interesting to me to want to hear about some of the doors that have opened for you.
yeah, I think first let me just talk about what it did to me, like internally. Um, I I think internally it's opened my eyes to the special needs community. It's not like I would ever like ignore those people or their families. I just didn't understand the perplexities of it. You know, like I would, if there was a little kid who maybe couldn't speak, but they were trying to communicate, I would be a little bit more like, ooh, I don't really know how to talk. Maybe I don't want to say the wrong thing, and I would maybe choose to be a little bit more, I don't know, distancing myself a little bit because like I just don't understand. I don't want to say something that's hurtful, and it's just showed me that all of these, particularly kids, but it's true of adults as well, but all of these kids are people. They're real people with real emotions, and they crave community, and they want to talk to you, even though they may not be able to say words. They just may kind of grunt and smile and giggle and all this kind of stuff, but they crave for people to really just look them in the eye and speak to them and love them and have a conversation with them. Um, and
Oh,
it
that's so
I
beautiful.
think with William, I think it's caused me to it's opened my heart because I see his struggles and his difficulties and things, but I also see him overcoming, and I just see him, you know, you know, being like every other human being, you know, and so it's caused me and Bethany to say, you know, let's be fearless in our engagement of these people, and let's just love them, and even when uh, it stretches us or pushes us into a place where it's out of our comfort zone. And so that was huge. So in a sense, it opened up the door for me to be a whole lot more sympathetic as a pastor, kind, reaching out to these people. And again, it doesn't go back to like I didn't love these people. I just didn't know how to love these people. I was just wasn't informed, and that was a huge thing. So internally, externally, um, like we had just talked like a week ago, actually, we were just talking to another couple that their first child has to have a trach, and William has a trach to breathe. Um, and like we were able to like correspond with his family, to love his family, and tell him like, hey, it's really going to be okay. This is what we've learned, you know, so on and so forth. So it's opened the door to minister to so many other people who are beginning this journey that we have been on for a little bit longer. So that was, I think, the big thing for us. And a big picture thing too. I think I look at pain and difficulty a little bit differently as well. Like I went through a 9 month period where I was just praying and asking God why a lot, and there was a season where Beth and I would pray for things to get better, and what we meant by better was like what we conceived as normal. We just kept praying, God, you know, bring it. And God didn't answer that prayer for 9 months. And really, there's still aspects of that prayer that's still not being answered. You know, and we prayed and we prayed and we prayed and we prayed. And it really began to show me that um, we were just asking God for what we thought was better, rather than saying, "Hey, God, what's the purpose in all of this? What are you trying to teach us? Like, where are you trying to place us so we can better serve you and be a better light for you?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it really began to change my view of prayer. But I had some times where I'm just so baffled. I'm like, man, every time I pray, I feel like it gets worse. Maybe I should stop praying. I was there. I was like, man, don't pray that. Don't. Something bad's gonna happen, you know. And but during this time too. And I've heard people say that it's during the painful times of life that you tend to think more about life, and they can tend to be some of the greatest spiritual formation periods of your life. And I agree with that now a whole lot more. But it was a struggle for sure.
Wow.
So
That's
so
so.
that's just,
Oh my God.
yeah.
That's so.
So wait, now tell me a little bit about your move and everything. Where are you at now?
Well, let me just like this whole idea. This is so beautiful for me, right? Because in all forms of growth, it's important for me to also understand everybody else's and for other people to meet everyone else's losses and like seeing that, oh my gosh, wow, like we grow through so much of that, and it's at the time, we don't see it, and it's just like this amazing win. This really, like, now you have also been anointed to pay attention to this community that with this one perspective of your own life now has shifted to like include someone else. And I don't know if you've watched The Chosen, but I just feel like
I have heard so much about it. I haven't seen it yet. I need to
ah!
watch it. I know I've heard so much about it. Good things. I just haven't jumped on the bandwagon to watch it. So obviously you're for this show, right?
Yeah, this show is like, honestly, it is so, I mean, when we talk about Jesus, being a friend to everyone, it's really cool to see that everyone, that his apostles were all so different. One was almost autistic, like the character who plays Matthew is autistic, and he's like kind of like off a little bit, but every single one of them was somewhat of an outlier or different, or and that we're all so
Yeah.
different, and that this difference has like included you to see how beautiful different it is. And like that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so happy to hear this.
Yeah. Just to tie this into something I learned in the Bible, like in relation to this whole thing, as I was looking at James. Have you studied much of the letter to that was the letter from James, the epistle?
Not yet.
The
I'm
Bible.
I'm at Revelation, so kind of and not really.
Oh, good, kind of.
I
Okay,
read
gotcha.
different ones, yeah, at the time.
Yeah, James.
And
I
why does
love the
James
book of
have
James.
two books? Is it
Say
James?
again?
James has two books, right?
No, it's just one.
Oh, okay. Timothy
Just
has
one. Yeah. Timothy has two books. Yep,
Timothy
you
has
got
two
it.
books. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And, um, and then you also have First and Second Thessalonians as well. Those are two letters written to one church. But James was writing to churches that were scattered out, and they think that the background of James is actually churches facing some hostility from the outside because of their faith. And James begins the book, and actually the whole book, you've got to read it. I mean, it's so awesome because he's giving just very, very practical things of how to live out your faith. And he starts off the book in a way that to me, it seems a little unrealistic, because he starts off the book saying, "My brethren," or "my brothers, says, count it all joy when you fall into diverse trials." Like, count it all joy.
Wow, okay, hold on. Let me just
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually going to open it. I have a little Bible over here myself. It's James 1 and verse 2. After he gives a brief introduction, count it all joy. And I'm thinking, just think about this for a moment. Like, let's say that you were really burdened about something. You were just really hurt. You had some losses, okay? And someone started off, like, you came to me and you're like, "John, I'm struggling. I had this loss in my life, this loss in my life. I don't know what to do with it." And what would you think if I started off my counseling or my advice? I said, "Hey, I just think that you need to consider it all joy that you've fallen into these various trials." You'd be like, I don't know if I'm going to come back to John for counseling. He's not really connected with my pain, connected with my hurt. So when I read this, I'm thinking, what in the world is James talking about? Count it all joy? That doesn't seem human, does it?
No.
It just doesn't. But it never, like when I would read through this, sometimes you miss the little details. But at the end of verse 2, you might think it's the end of the sentence, but it's not. There's not a period. It continues into verse 3, and it's so key to understanding how this works. It says, count it all joy when you fall into various trials. Now here's the beginning of verse 3. Knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. And so what he's saying is, he's not saying, hey, you ought to be very happy about this trial. He's saying you ought to be happy about what this trial is going to produce.
Yes.
So trials are God's tools to mature us.
Yes.
Like William, God used William to mature Bessie and I in a particular way to better minister to God's people.
Yes.
Where we're at. So the trial. So I don't look back and say, man, I just love everything about that. I mean, I love being in Nixie for 105 days. No, I didn't. I didn't love being in Nixie for 105 days. I don't like the fact that William had some of the struggles that he had.
Mm-hmm.
But I can count it all joy because I'm attaching it to that knowledge. And I'm telling you, when I got that, and then I looked at the whole Bible, the Bible is jam-packed with this. Like you think about going back to the Genesis account, Genesis 50. You know the story of Joseph? His brothers sold him into slavery in the book of Genesis.
Well, keep going because all of this is so new to me. My own journey in Christianity is like a whole book. I mean, I feel like that might be my another book that I'm going to write.
Yeah. And forgive me if I'm assuming your knowledge here, like on certain stories.
No, I'm glad you asked. That's why you asked. You know the story, right? And I'm like, no, tell me.
So in Genesis, there's a story about this family, and the dad is named Jacob, and he has 12 sons. And the other sons, that's a big family, right? The other sons get jealous of Joseph, and they end up pretending that they pretend to almost kill him. They sell him into slavery, and they tell the father, hey, he died. So they kind of covered up. Really messed up family, right?
Yeah.
And Joseph becomes a slave in the Egyptian culture. And at first it seemed okay because he was in this household where they treated him well. But then he was framed and lied about, and then he was thrown in prison.
What?
He was in prison for 2 years. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. But it says in the narrative in Genesis that the Lord was with Joseph even through the hard times. The Lord was with him. Eventually, God blessed Joseph in such a way that he earned favor with the Pharaoh, the one who was, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh ended up making him, long story short, I'm skipping some details, but long story short, made Joseph second in command of the entire nation. And you remember Joseph's brothers?
Yes.
Because of famine, Joseph's brothers came to Egypt to get food. And then so Joseph saw his brothers coming, and now they're begging for food. But years ago, they pretended like they killed them. They sold them off to slavery, and they're like, oh no, Joseph is going to kill us now, because of we did him wrong. And he said these words. This is Joseph. He says, you meant it for evil. All that you did, selling me into slavery and all that happened, you meant it for evil. And then he says this, and it's so profound. He says, but God meant it for good. Isn't that incredible? Now,
Beautiful.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I think it would really be hard to respond that way. It obviously shows a remarkable amount of maturity in his own spiritual journey. But then you find that particular response as Christians all through the scriptures, like the Apostle Paul in Philippians. And I'm going to wrap this up. I keep talking here. I'm just enjoying talking the scriptures.
And I'm enjoying listening. Like, I love it. Keep talking.
In Philippians 1, Paul's writing a letter. And if you know the book of Philippians, it's 4 chapters, and 19 times Paul says in different ways to be happy in the Lord, rejoice in the Lord. but man, the message of Philippians really hits you hard when you realize where Paul wrote the letter. Paul wrote the letter about rejoicing and finding joy in Jesus in prison because he was preaching Jesus, and there were some people that didn't like it, threw him in prison. And he said these words. He says, I know you guys are panicking, but the things that have happened unto me has happened rather unto the furtherance of the gospel. Now, I don't want you to miss it. Paul's rejoicing was connected to a knowledge that God was doing something. Joseph, back in Genesis, his rejoicing was connected to the fact that God was doing something for his good. James, in James chapter 1, verse 2, he says, count it all joy. Why? It's connected to a knowledge that God is doing something in our lives. So you see this parallel, and there's many more stories in the Bible that just bring us back to the fact that God is sovereign, He is in control. And if we can learn to see that, and I think the more we experience life, the more we just say, I know this is hard, I know this is difficult, but God is doing something. I'm going to trust that.
Yes.
Cling to God. And I'm going to cling, and I'm going to have tears in my eyes sometimes, and I'm going to struggle, and that's okay. But I'm going to trust God through it all. And I really think, from a Christian perspective, that is fundamental to turning your losses into wins. I really do.
Wow, that was beautiful. Wow.
So, but anyways,
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's great. That was great. That was great. Wow. Amazing. Amazing talk. Amazing talk. Yeah, I feel the same way. So before I left Seattle, I was really learning that much about getting closer to God. Now, I feel like some people do they say it's not until you're in a really bad time that you know God, but I feel like they're talking about something different than what we're referring to. And that's what I want to kind of make clear. Like when things are so bad, you don't praise God. And when things are good, then that's not how I ever like grew up. Every time we got in the house, like I'm from Nigeria, my family's like, okay, let's pray. And before we go out the door, hold on, everybody, let's pray, And
yeah.
so every ceremony, every New Year's going into like from 10:30 until maybe 3 a.m. we pray into the new year every New Year. It's like a family tradition. And so yeah, I feel as if the pinching point that you're referring to is a different turning to Jesus. Some people do it out of desperation, and some of us know, just like we're in this pressing place, this place where we want wine, but we don't understand what it's like to be a grape, or we want olive oil and we know it's like going to be tough, and then at the end is a refined product. So I feel a lot of times it's clear to recognize that, and to use someone who I found very inspirational to me, like almost like one of my spirit guides, Nelson Mandela, who was imprisoned for so many years and knew God was really, that loss was a huge win. The leader of a country that brought people who were in rivalry, blacks and whites, together. Like, who would have thought in that time? And he's like, no, it's for the cause, but he knew it was for the cause. He was wrongfully imprisoned, and coming out of it, a lot of people asked, like, what was different? Like, they were trying to really find out how bad it was. In one of his books on my Instagram, in case anybody's listening on this podcast, there is my YouTube channel, and I have an Instagram book list. And Nelson Mandela, 15 Lessons on Life, Love, and Courage, is one of like the 75 books I read over the winter. And he talked about, people were just pressing him. What was it like? And he's like, prison just made me mature. It just made me mature. And to look back at some like trials and situations like that, it's important to rejoice in each step, because we want big things, but sometimes God doesn't give us an escalator. It'll be too much. You got to process things, right? So that's so beautiful.
And even for some people that may listen in later too, that are they're not of faith. They're not. They would claim a faith, or maybe they're They're open to the idea. I think it's actually remarkable how non-Christian or Christian or even different types of faith as well, um, all have like this somewhat of an impulse of saying, okay, we're all desperately looking for meaning in our pain. We're all desperately looking for like, what does this mean? You
Yeah.
know, and it's interesting, even people from a naturalistic worldview that would believe that, hey, this world, what we can see, hear, taste, touch, all that kind of stuff, what our senses can bring us to, that's all there is. There's nothing else. Um, it's interesting to me, even for somebody that has that worldview, still has an angst to make meaning out of the pain, which I think should cause anybody that's in that position to pause and say, why is that? Why do I actually want to make meaning if actually the material world is all there is? That would mean that actually nothing actually really has ultimate meaning, because when I die, it's over. There's no greater, any type of significance. But, I think our internal angst betrays us in those moments, because we're like, I want something. I want this to mean something. And I think the reason why we feel that way, and I'm going to tie this into my Christian worldview here, but it's because we were created in the image of God, and He created everything with a divine purpose. So when the world is moving in the way it does, and by the way, God didn't intend for this world to be broken, or doesn't intend for there to be, as it were, as the Bible puts it, a struggle with sin, or a struggle with, we can fill this out with hatred, or you mentioned some of the things that are happening with like sex trafficking and all this stuff. That is never God's design. But yet we can see in the midst of the pain, there's still one who's taking all of this, not calling it all good, but He's taking all of it and He's working it together for our good, to those that love God. And that's so incredible. And so if you're on a journey, if whoever would be watching this and they're on a journey of faith, I would just pause and ask, why do you think you have these angst to say, man, I want to make this make sense. There's got to be a purpose, that might, if you keep following that path, you might find yourself looking for the Creator, looking for Him. And that, to me, that makes the most sense. But that's really cool to hear your journey and that type of thing. But you were making a correlation between, I guess you were communicating the nuance difference between what you were used to as opposed to like what I was describing, type of thing. Would you
Yeah.
say that you've been able to make that connection yourself in your journey?
So in my journey, I have always been the different person. So understanding that other people have other perspectives is not a new thing for me. I feel like had I been born in West Africa, I probably, what I think is so amazing to see so many people that look like you, and it's just a nice thing. I grew up in, or have memories, and I published this in my book, but not too much. Um, but I went to high school in Vestavia Hills, which is a suburb in Birmingham. I grew up all over the world. I traveled a lot in the United States, so I have not really lived in many states very long. But Alabama was one of the longest ones, and so being in this blue ribbon suburb, and I'm the only person of this skin tone, has been my kind of life story. And so where, I see someone, and my father is just immigrated here, and I'm first generation born here in America. So where other people are like, wow, is this how Chinese people live, or is this how certain people live? I've always known that there was a different perspective, and it's made me very sensitive and loving towards people that is like, I think it's so cool not to be um, I think it's so cool not to be like everybody else, because that really sucks, like God gave us fingerprints. And this is one of the things I talk about even in my store, that like God gives us fingerprints, so we're meant to be unique. So in my own journey, like seeing different perspectives, is something I like to do. This is kind of who I am. So, these different perspectives is really what makes us okay, and we have to listen. I never really paid much attention to Donald Trump until like 2 months ago. I picked up Think Like a Billionaire, and then I just thought we just have to. I mean, and now after like listening to some of the advice he's given us, it's like, I don't know, he's really does help people. I feel in any of his books, like How to Get Rich or Think Like a Boss, or no, Kick Ass, I forget. But I listen to a lot of audiobooks and different books and controversial books and people of controversy, and are they really like that, or like is it really a different perspective? So that's kind of the gift of my difference than win. I mean, it's not really very simple to live with melanin skin in the United States, and it's not nice there. Really, it's scary, and there's a lot of movies and documentaries that have talked about this. And a lot of the young black men who were being killed by the hands of police just for no reason. And so it's like they're
Yeah.
my brother. So has it been so simple or easy? No, and I never, that's really interesting because I never quite saw my race as like something that held back, even in Alabama when people would like throw beer at me I mean,
Yeah.
every place has something. I mean, really, everyone, I feel, unfortunately, it's like that.
Maybe like another time, this would be really fun. I would love to like have like kind of like an interview with you sometime. If you would be up for it, of course.
I'd love
You
that.
may not be, but I would love to do an interview about just that whole your whole journey there, and of course the racial tension in our nation. Uh, it can be pretty polarizing.
Yeah.
And actually, I think it'd be really kind of neat too, because one thing that our church that we're trying to be really careful with is creating this idea. Like a lot of people that have come and helped us initially were white, you know, and I've been praying with our team and saying, hey, we don't want to create um, this idea that we're just trying to build this like a white team. We're praying that we would have as many different ethnicities, because that's just like one of the things, the beautiful things of the gospel is that it tears down any of those walls of racism. It tears down any of those walls of showing partiality. Um, and we start to view that every person on the planet is created in the image of God, and there needs to be dignity and respect given to every person. But I would love to be able to interview you about your journey on that sometime. I'd love to hear more details. Maybe we could get that going sometime.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be
Um,
awesome.
but yeah, I'm totally with you too. Like it's amazing to me sometimes as a pastor, um, people think that naturally the pastor, oh, he's got something to say, he's going to say something. But I need just as much perspective as the next person. I need to sit and listen too. I need to be like, just tell me, because sometimes we all have our perspective, and it helps to have other people weigh in. So that's so good stuff. So this communication that you're doing here, you said you're going to be doing it weekly or
No, it's just once a
monthly?
month. This is the first time I've ever done this. I've been on a lot of panels recently, and so I feel that it's better to have my own lunch. Everyone, we can like, if we'll just see what happens. It's a really fun break outside of what I'm doing, but still allowing to do. And as it continues to grow and more people hear about, just talking with, it's just lunch. You know what I mean? Like, you can
Yeah,
eat
yeah.
something.
I
You're
would love
welcome.
to.
Yeah.
I didn't interrupt you. I would love to be, to be a part other times too. Jump in and be a part of the conversation and hear people. It would be helpful for me as well. So,
Yeah, just jump in and out. It's okay. Yeah, I would love that. And send this to some of your friends. Like, this is I'm creating this space where we can all just talk about a lot of topics, but everyone's able to like, you can see this person as a human being and a beautiful soul and spirit, right? And everyone that
Yeah.
comes in is different. Sometimes I've worked with them. Some of them are bankers of mine. Some are friends in, other countries. And so whatever happens, happens. And as it grows, I'm really excited to just, keep
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
this.
I think most people crave being able to talk about the important things of life. But sometimes, like a place like social media, there can tend to be those keyboard warriors, that kind of fire out at each other, and it can get it. It's not always, unfortunately, it's not always very helpful. But I love platforms like this where people can have a space to be able to
Mm-hmm.
talk about the, the things that they value, the way that they think, without being, cut down and interrupted. And those are important. And I think I think society is moving towards this direction where we can have conversations, even about some things that we disagree on, but be able
Yeah.
to put it out there. And there's a lot of help for that. So I will be praying for you and starting this. This is really super cool.
Thank you so much. Wow, that is so sweet. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm probably gonna have to go here in just like a minute or two.
Yeah, I'm just
To
gonna
do
be
some.
here doing my work, and then whoever hops on, we keep talking. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, um, send me an invite next time you do this next month or something like that. And we'll see if we can make it work.
and then
Sure.
maybe you can also tell people about your city light, yeah,
Say again.
and then you could like share things
I
about your
just.
you could share things about your church.
Oh yeah, yeah. If that comes up, I'd be glad to.
Yeah. I
For
mean, it's a
sure.
part of how we met, so it's something that we can be open to talk about. And I'm not sure, like,
How many times?
oh, go ahead.
I was I was just gonna ask. How many times did you visit City Light? It was a number of times, wasn't it? It was like
Twice.
twice. Okay, I was thinking 2 or 3 times. Uh, but yeah, we really enjoyed having you.
Yeah, it was so nice to be there.
So we feel like we're gonna get ready to do actually more like almost a relaunch because we haven't had church for 4 months. Like I'm talking about like gatherings. So we're like, oh wow. So it's probably about another month out before we actually meet in person because of the coronavirus and everything. But we're super excited about uh, getting back together. I miss my people.
Yeah, and like we're good, I mean, I really, just by feeling smart and just knowing God said, no weapon formed against us shall prosper, right? And no plague shall come upon thy dwelling. So there's a lot of people. I really recommend this woman. Her name is Dr. Alexis Maston. And she's got the best prophetic words. Dr.
Doctor,
Alexis. Alexis Maston. She's
spell last name one time.
Maston.
I got it.
And she's every week she's got some, or every month she's got a prophetic word, and every single time, oh my God, they're coming! Oh wow! And so I'm getting all these really fun texts. I'm like, I'm coming. Like there's many. Um, so she's got something called like a prophetic word, and every month she releases something. And do you know she and Dr. Cindy Trim? Yeah, you know Dr. Cindy Trim?
Yeah,
She's amazing.
I do.
She's amazing. And so um, it's great. It's amazing. She just check her out on YouTube. She has prophetic words every month. She told us about the coronavirus and what it's related to, and then she told everybody about SBA funding being released. That like there's some of these loans you don't have to pay back. Everyone who wants to start a business, and I didn't know about it, and then later saw the Trump addressed this, and I thought, wow, this is a great time for God's people to, like Moses says, you have to stop thinking like a slave. It can't work if you're still thinking like a slave when we're leveling the playing fields now, and who was last is now first. So you can't be thinking always last, like, am I going to get a paycheck? It's time to step up and start listening to like Robert Kawasaki, Patrick Bet David. It's time to understand, okay, like billionaires are being made during this time, and this is perfect. No one's talking. I'm focused. There's a global community. There's people I can build a great network with, and I'm not working for anyone anymore. It's time to give my children's children's children more than enough. It's like that.
Yeah. The real question is when are you going to start your YouTube channel?
I have a YouTube channel.
I didn't know that. You email that to me or something like that. I'll look you up. But you speak so well, and you have so much charisma, and you have that big smile and everything. You would do a great job, or probably are doing a great job.
Thank you so much. I mean, I can always use new friends. It's unapologeticallymarinike.com, and yeah, I'll text it to you now. Oh wait, I can even put it here so whoever joins in a minute will also see it.
Oh, there we go. Awesome.
So this is also my YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah, I got your website here, so I'll look that up. And
cool. I'm so glad you came to join me for lunch. I hope, please send links to your friends if you want, and just a nice open place to chat. I'll think about and I'll talk to everyone else and see if we want to save this, or if these conversations should just be conversations. We don't have to worry about any of that. Either way, we'll just see,
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time too. I really enjoyed it, and I will catch you later.
All right. Thank you. Bye, John.
All right. Bye-bye.